How is everyone this evening? What a tremendous honor and pleasure it is to be here with you tonight for a night of fellowship and with a group of folks who's so passionate about the game of football and really football here in Middle Georgia. To the high school weekly winners, congratulations on all your success. And the one thing I would tell you, and I'm always on my guys, is stay engaged, right? Put your phones down and take it all in. Football Friday nights come and go very quickly, and you'll never have those moments, but keep working hard, and congratulations on your success up to this point. To the coaches here this evening, I enjoyed you guys sharing your stories. We have some very similar beliefs in terms of discipline and effort and attitude, and frankly, it's part of our pyramid of success. Clint, 14 players. I was always told early on in my coaching career you needed a pair and a spare. So we got to get you up to like 24, man, if you're playing 8-man football, so you can stay healthy and keep it rolling. But keep working hard. You guys are doing a tremendous job. As Ben mentioned, just since I'm new to Macon, since I'm new to Middle Georgia, y'all hired a Yankee down here, but I'm really appreciative of Jim Cole and his trust that he's given us and our staff, and frankly the support to put together what we think is a really fine football team. And just a little bit more on my background. They mentioned my family. They're my why. We all have a reason we get up in the morning, and my wife lets me chase my dreams every week. She's an educator, and she's taking care of our boys now, and we've settled into Macon here, and it's really been a blessing for us. So we're excited about the opportunity here. As they mentioned, I am the son of a football coach, and I'm the grandson of a football coach, and that's really, that's why I got into it. That's where my passion comes from. My grandfather was a high school educator. He was a math teacher and a football coach for 50 plus years in the greater Cleveland, Ohio area. He's a Ohio High School Hall of Fame member in the class of 1988. My dad got it from his dad, and my dad, I grew up around football. My dad went the college route. He was a Division I coach for about 36 seasons prior to passing away. Passed away young at 62 years old. But one of the really cool things was, and really the stories, I still run into some of my grandfather's old players, and Facebook's a beautiful thing for that. You get to stay connected with folks you normally wouldn't. And then my dad's former players, and the impact that they had on those people's lives and those gentlemen's lives when they were in their life really set them up for success. And growing up with the players around the house and the interaction that my dad had, he was an offensive line coach and an offensive coordinator. I aspired to be that. I wanted that community feel. I wanted that brotherhood, the togetherness, and I wanted those relationships. I wanted to have an impact on young men's lives the way that my grandfather and my dad did, and that's why I got into the business. My folks were split up, so I lived with my mother during the school year in Ohio. Maumee, Ohio there, played high school football there in Ohio, and I spent the summers with my dad. Again, he longtime coach. He was at West Virginia for about 15 seasons. He spent some time at Ohio State under John Cooper. He was at Oklahoma State. He was at Bowling Green, Toledo. Finished his career at Cal PA. And one of the things I'm most blessed by is I had an opportunity to play for my dad 3 of my 5 seasons at Ohio State. Football's a fickle business. He was fired. He left. I stayed. But it's just part of the gig, and you learn that early on. And but then as my dad had some health complications, and he was kind of in a working retirement. He couldn't get rid of the white line fever and the football fever. So as he was coming towards the end of it, we had an opportunity to coach together. So I got to play for him for 3 of my 5 years. And then we actually coached together for a season at California University of Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. So those things all had a tremendous impact on me. Me being new to the area, I'll give it just a little bit more of my background. As I played at Ohio State, played 4 years for John Cooper and 1 year for Jim Tressel. Both Hall of Fame coaches. They couldn't be more polar opposite ends of like the personality spectrum. John Cooper was a tremendous coach, and one of the funnier guys I've been around. I don't know if you ever meant to it, but John was from the mountains of Tennessee, and he always used to say he used to have to come into town to go hunting. That's how far out he used to live. And so just being around those guys, again, like uniquely blessed to be around a bunch of legitimate college football Hall of Famers, between growing up watching Don Nehlen do it at West Virginia, playing for John Cooper, playing for Jim Tressel. When I got done playing, I was very lucky. I began my coaching career at Eastern Michigan University, working with the offensive line as a graduate assistant. 2 seasons there. I spent 1 season at Wilmington College, a Division III school in Southern Ohio, before becoming a GA at Purdue University, and worked for Joe Tiller there. Again, another Hall of Famer, and was there 3 seasons, worked with a tremendous offense. Jim Chaney, who's now the OC at Georgia State, was the guy that really hired me there and brought me in. And then, began a journey in Division II football. Left Purdue University, got my master's there, went to California University of Pennsylvania as an assistant, spent 6.5 seasons there, had a tremendous amount of success. We had 3 Final Four appearances. In Division II, there's just about 166 teams now, so we're part of 3 Final Fours there, a couple quarterfinal teams. And there was some coaching turnover, got let go in the turnover, and ended up as an assistant at Notre Dame College in Ohio. So I tell folks all the time, like, my recruiting shtick for a long time was I was at Cal PA, and then I was at Notre Dame College. So I just leave off the end of the state of where we were at. So kids would think it was Berkeley or the Golden Domers at Notre Dame, and I got a little further down the road on the recruiting than I maybe should have with some of them. But Notre Dame College was a brilliant experience for me. I learned a lot there. I was very fortunate to become a head football coach there. It was a startup program. Notre Dame College was an all-girls school for 80 plus years, run by the Sisters of Notre Dame there in Cleveland. And they had a president at the time in the mid-2000s that felt it was important for enrollment to start football and band. And I came in about 3 years into that starting of that program. Worked there for 2 seasons as an assistant, 1 as the defensive line coach, 1 as the defensive coordinator, and then was very fortunate in May of 2016, which is a very unique time to become a head coach. The head coach at the time had left to take a job actually at Savannah State, and I became head coach there and took a team that had only had 1 winning season in their first 8 seasons, went 42-8 in my time there, took them to a Final Four appearance, lost in the Final Four to Valdosta State at that time, and then that led to an opportunity at Lenoir-Rhyne. And again, I went from a startup program to Lenoir-Rhyne that had been playing football for over 100 years at the time, proud tradition. Following a great situation and a great coach in Drew Cronick, and again, started at a unique time because it was right in the middle of COVID. So all the things you do to build culture, to be around your players, to really get to know them off the field, we were forced to do that through Zoom. And it really, it's hard to establish the things the way you'd like to do it when you're dealing with Zoom calls. And to be honest, I was running the program from my basement in Cleveland, Ohio at the time. I'd gone home for spring break and they shut the world down. So spent a few months there in Cleveland until my family got moved to North Carolina. But had an opportunity, very blessed to be a part of an institution in Lenoir-Rhyne that really cares about the game of football. Went 32-9 there with a Final Four appearance this last season. Unfortunately lost to Harding in the national semifinals, and that led to this tremendous opportunity here at Mercer. And just couldn't be more blessed with this opportunity. I think one of the unique things is having been at a startup program like Notre Dame College and coming to Mercer, which again has been around for over 100 years and is on the road back to a proud football tradition. To be a part of it, really what I still consider the infant stages, is really a blessing. And as we go through this, I think it's really important to recognize that the record's associated with my name, but it's really about the players that we've been able to attract and their commitment to the game of football, their commitment to one another, I think has been tremendous, and that's at every stop that I've been at. Particular to our Mercer roster right now, we have 56 players from the state of Georgia, so we have just over 100 players on our team, so over 50% of our roster comes from right here in the state of Georgia. We have 4 local Macon young men on our team: Scooter Risper, Travion Solomon, Michael Horton, and then Tucker Mix are kind of our middle Georgia contingent from the super local region. And I think it's also important to recognize that today's day and age with the transfer portal, over 75% of our roster is still high school student athletes. And as we build things out and what I believe in, we still believe in building things out with the basis and the strong foundation of high school football players, and then you use the transfer portal to supplement some things that you maybe lose through attrition and some of that stuff. So our administration's been fantastic with keeping us on the front end of all that stuff. Again, allowed us to start 6-0. Had a tough weekend this past weekend with the Hatcher contingent. Coach did a great job. We spotted them 28 points, right? Like, as much as I try to emulate Kirby Smart and a bunch of things, I could have done without that piece of it, similar to what he did with Alabama. But, I think the most important thing to realize is that there's always something to learn from a failure. And as long as we do that, as long as we correct the ship and come back at it, we have a tremendous football team with kids that care quite a bit about football. So, as the coaches earlier had mentioned, how have we had success? I believe as a coach, I think one of the reasons I've been successful as a head coach, not only having great players and assistants who are much brighter than I am, it's the fact that I've worked in all three parts of it. I think it's like when you're growing up in a company, the more you can do and the more you know about. I was an offensive line coach. I was a defensive line coach. I've been the director of football operations at 2 of the smaller schools. And that time at the smaller school level, there's nothing I haven't done. I've loaded pallets full of Gatorade and drove them over on a trailer. I've climbed in press boxes that it's like a hatch on a submarine, and I'm a big guy, so that's a tall task. And what it does is it prepares you that even when things aren't right, or even when they're not as you expect, you're really prepared for anything, because you've been through some tough times, and no's really never not a reasonable answer. There's always a way. There's always a way to win and do well, as long as you're pouring into your student athletes. And so, I think those experiences have shaped me. I think, similar to Coach earlier, I played for Jim Tressel. He had the block O of life, was how he approached things, to not just grow us as players, but to grow us as men. So we've gotten into, Coach Cronick had to raise the bar. I'm not smart enough to have a clever, catchphrase, but we have the pyramid of success. And similar to Coach, that foundation, the 4 core pillars of that are really discipline, attitude, trust, and effort. That's what we want everything, the core of our program, to be. The next part of that pyramid of success, we talk about paying the fee, and that's focus, energy, and enthusiasm. That's the way we want to approach every day, because every day on this earth is a blessing, and we're blessed to be at a place that's as supportive as Mercer with the people that we're doing it with. The second to the top there is really mental and physical toughness. I think those are the 2 characteristics that really separate you from good to great. And if you do all those things below that, and you do them well and you do them together, it should ultimately lead to championships if you're pouring into young men and you're caring about them, not just on the field. And I think that's what's really special about Mercer, is that it's not just football, it's a tremendous education. I'm learning more about it every day, but our kids work hard in the classroom, they do really well there too, and they leave with a tremendous degree that sets them up for success whenever football is over. So again, on behalf of the Macon Touchdown Club, I'm really blessed to be here this evening. I'm blessed to be a part of Middle Georgia. My family and I are out and about in the community quite a bit, and please stop me if you see me in around. I'll pick up my appearances in the community a little more after the season's over with. But what you folks do for Macon, what you folks do for the high school football in the area is tremendous. Really, one of my first functions as the head coach in Mercer was the Jamboree here in the spring, and just the attendance and the commitment level from the folks in the community to the Touchdown Club is really astonishing, and really, really grateful to just be a really small piece and part of it. So, with all that, I'll certainly open it up for questions. I don't hear very well, so I need you to use your gym voice and really shout at me so I can hear it.
What's the rest of the season look like?
Yeah, we have a huge week. Like this 3-game stretch. We're coming off our bye week. We played Princeton. Then we had obviously a good Sanford team last weekend, but this weekend we have another top 25 matchup with Western Carolina, who currently sits in first place in the Southern Conference. Their quarterback threw for 620 yards last weekend in one game. His daddy's a coach as well down in Florida. So we have a tremendous challenge with Western Carolina here this weekend, followed up by East Tennessee State for our homecoming game the weekend after that. And then we're on the road at VMI, and then we have the Crimson Tide and Furman to round things out. So the road doesn't get any easier, I promise. We have a number of challenges still in front of us these next 5 weeks. Yeah, hey, listen, everybody's worried. Kalen DeBoer is a tremendous coach, and people can't freak out when folks lose twice. I promise he'll win. No one ever wants to follow a legend, right? It's hard when they got a bronze statue out in front of the building you got to walk into every day. So, the guy that you were playing, his office is still up there, right? So, yes, sir.
Braden Smith was one of our Ortho Georgia Players of the Year his senior year at Tatnall. Do you ever tell him to take a fair catch and just bring the ball off the field? I've
been a little disappointed in a couple of the decisions, but he's made more plays than he's missed. Again, he's a Tatnall grad. They were talking about Braden Smith, who really has been tremendous for us. He going into last weekend was leading the nation in punt return, yardage, and touchdowns. He's been a huge weapon for us. He's our leading receiver. So, again, I missed him in the list of local guys. I can't believe I did that. But he's been tremendous for us, and he does a fantastic job. Yes, sir.
What did you learn from the loss to Sanford?
Yeah, you can't. The question was, what did you learn from the loss at Sanford? And I think it's really simple. When you play good teams in a really strong league, that you have to show up each week, and you better match or better their energy and enthusiasm. And we got off to a slow start. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out why, but got off to a slow start. We had some turnovers, and really got behind the 8 ball early. Coming out of that, the things we have to do, we got to work to control the line of scrimmage. We got to eliminate the turnovers, and we got to continue just to keep playing. We can't get behind 4 touchdowns in the first 4.5 minutes of the game. So we've learned a lot, I promise. But starting fast, and making sure that you don't sleepwalk anything. That certainly don't take anybody lightly in this conference, but you have to show up and you got to be ready to play immediately. It's not something that's a light switch, and I think that's you got to have preparation that starts throughout the course of the week in practice. We do, yeah, absolutely, and that was a big piece of this. Jim and some of our folks in our administration, roughly around May, we began the Coleman Avenue Collective, and they've done a tremendous job in a very quick amount of time, I think, with not just football rolling. Jim was busy. Football, men's and women's basketball turned over, and I think as they went through the interview process in each of those sports, it became really clear that if you're going to do sports, if you're going to participate at a high FCS level, if you're going to participate at a high mid-major level in basketball, then you have to be in the NIL game. And let me be really clear on this. What you hear about NIL and what you see in the news that pertains to Alabama and Georgia, like those are the one-off situations. Do you understand? Like not everybody's getting a Rolex and a Lamborghini and like that is the outlier. What we're doing with NIL is we're giving kids who don't come from much, in some instances, the ability to go out and get a Chipotle or a pizza on the weekend or maybe a beer after a big victory. And so what that does is it allows them the opportunity, because they can't work, it allows them the opportunity to put a little extra in addition to what they already get. And it's nothing more than, you have to be in it if you want to be successful, but we are in it. Our Coleman Avenue Collective is doing a tremendous job. They just had a clay shoot. We'll have a few other things coming down the road. Watch our social media for that. But anybody in the local area who'd like to be involved, you don't have to be so specific to Mercer. If you have a passion for a certain sport or you have a passion for a local player, then certainly any opportunity to support those young men or young women in any way is certainly welcomed. Anything else? Y'all let me off easy tonight. It truly is an honor. I appreciate being here. Thank you for all that you guys do.